It's the debate that never seems to end, medical marijuana. We talk about that on today's roundtable. Plus, some argue he's causing a stir-up in the gubernatorial election. We sit down with Senator Dennis Pyle, who tells us why he's the conservative choice. Plus, Governor Laura Kelly and Attorney General Derek Schmidt both try to shed comparisons to Governor Brownback and Biden. Where do they go from here? Rebecca Chung tells us what's ahead at the Kansas Capitol. You're taking a look inside Kansas politics. Welcome in. I'm Denisha Richard. We've got lots to talk about today, but first, this gubernatorial candidate says he's the true conservative of the race. His name, Senator Dennis Pyle, and he's causing what some describe as a shakeup in the race. Today we are joined by independent gubernatorial candidate Senator Dennis Pyle. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
Well, you know, the first time we met, you were actually working on getting your signatures, and now fast forward to today, you're on the ballot for the governor's race come November. How does that feel, being able to be next to the political heavy hitters like Kelly and Schmidt?
Well, I spent a lot of time next to him in the Kansas Senate. As you know, we were elected officials in the same chamber for 6 years, Denisha, and so there's I don't know that there's any special feeling to it. It's just it's a challenge. We're trying to get the truth out there about our voting records because there is a vast difference.
Right. So you say you're trying to get the truth out there. People have probably seen your name. People may have even seen you around, but I don't really think Kansans really know who Dennis Pyle is. Who are you?
Well, grew up in Hamlin, Kansas. You know, not much there now, but there's still some people there. But I can remember the barber shop. I remember a lot of things. I got my hair cut there, probably the first time I got it cut. I was the first of, there were 8 of us children, 4 boys and 4 girls.
Wow.
And I'm number 5. I had 3 older sisters, 1 older brother.
Middle child?
Yeah.
Okay.
And grew up going to Hiawatha. I was the first one that started in Hiawatha after school consolidation. Unification, they called it back then. But yeah, grew up there going to Hiawatha High School, and I met my bride-to-be. She was a Sabetha Blue Jay. I don't hold that against her, but you know, I'm a Hiawatha fan, alumni. So
it's okay, right?
Yeah,
it's okay.
Yeah.
We'll tell her that.
But I farm in the area. We raised our 6 children, all daughters, and we have 13 grandkids. So,
and it's been quite the journey for you. You know, you've been left out of the major debates that have been occurring right now. How did it feel being more so an audience member when people who are next to you on the ballot for November were up on that stage?
Well, you know, it's like everything in life. You know, we have our states, like most states, we have a 2 dominant party system, and one of the reasons I chose to be an independent is to shed light on that fact, because I believe it needs to change. We weren't invited. That was in Hutchinson. That was the state fair debate. I think we were qualified. I believe that when they see our report this fall in October, they'll see that we did have enough cash on hand if they had asked. We were not asked. We were not invited.
Senator Pyle says he stands behind his priorities as prospective governor. The state senator says he supports the pro-life movement. Pyle also says he wants to raise the standard deduction for Kansas families, easing the economic burden. And he says he's a supporter of Second Amendment rights and wants to overhaul the election audit system.
We're pretty much on those. There's others. I mean, I can contrast votes with Derek and Laura. They both voted many times together on illegal immigration issues that I voted opposite of them on. Their votes show they're more for open borders than I am. I can go into other issues, life and others, but we have a lot to do in this state, and I want to turn this state back to empowering the people.
He was a dedicated Republican until he announced his candidacy for governor this summer after a falling out with the Republican Party. Current Republican Party Chairman Mike Kolkeman told Inside Kansas Politics where the GOP stands with Pyle.
I am working hard to recruit somebody to take that Kansas Senate seat that he currently occupies. I don't want him to run as a Republican after the governor's race. I want him to retire and go home. What
are your thoughts on those words that he just said? He said retire and go home, but you just said you're not doing that.
Oh no, and that's typical establishment party leadership attitude. You know, it's the same as the map vote. Do what we tell you, or we're going to make you suffer consequences. And that's the problem. That's why I'm in this race.
You're serious about this.
Very.
Many people think that you're not in this as a serious gubernatorial candidate, that you're in this to spite the Republican Party. Some people say a vote for you is a vote for Laura Kelly.
Yeah.
And they think you're not serious about this, that this is just your, haha, this is what I'm doing to the Republican Party. Is that true?
No, that's false. From the beginning, they've been propagating those lies, and we are asking people to vote for us because of the issues that I'm talking about. And we believe we're putting people on the ground together to do that. And I believe there's a storm coming in November, and look out, because Pyle is in this for real. I'm one of the people. I'm a small farmer. My wife and I are content. We have our bills paid. We're out of debt, and we live free. And I want to continue to live free in Kansas and in America. And those freedoms are being encroached upon right now. I can't urge people enough. If you will just compare those 6 years of voting records, you will see that when I say I'm the true conservative and the only conservative in the race, by those voting records you will know it. Whether it's life, whatever it is, you'll see it. So,
all right.
Anyway.
Well, thank you for joining me.
Well, thank you.
Dennis Pyle here with me today. And of course, as many of you may already know, the general election is right around the corner. It's coming up on November 8th. The candidates for governor faced off this week in a heated debate, with both candidates working to get out from behind President Biden and former Governor Brownback's shadows. Up next, Rebecca joins us with a look at what's ahead at the Kansas Capitol. Plus, Kansas is one of the last states to possibly legalize medical marijuana, but that could all change next year. Like one Kansas doctor says, medical marijuana is a Trojan horse. Stay with us.
Introducing our new redesigned 27 News app. Our new app features a sleek, modern design, an easy-to-navigate home screen with quick access to local news content and a localized weather forecast. Subscribing to notifications is easier. And with one tap, you have access to recent push notifications. There are more ways to watch and find video, and the red light alert badge notifies you when we're streaming. Download or update our 27 News app today.
The Jennifer Hudson Show is here. Everybody put your hands together. I gotta talk to you now.
I left work to come.
You left work? They gonna see you. He's with me today. We're lighting up daytime, baby.
And you're gonna bless people every single day.
We're giving back, lifting each other up.
Something hits you in your heart.
We're doing it all. Yeah! Mama Hood, coming to the rescue.
Weekdays at 1 on 27 KSNT.
I'm Ryan Seacrest. First responders are people who stand for a greater purpose. They will be there for you when nobody else is, to help you, your family, your community make it through, whatever the day may bring. This is their selfless promise. This is their sworn duty to protect, to serve, to help. They put themselves in harm's way for us. They come to the rescue at times when we need them most. First responders are making enormous personal sacrifices to keep showing up for us and fighting the good fight. Nearly 70% of all firefighters are volunteers. That means when they get injured or quarantined, they may not have a way to pay their rent or keep their family safe and fed. No matter who you are or where you live, when you call 911 and ask for help, first responders show up now. Let's show up for the people who show up for us every day and every night.
On this week's Look Ahead, the final governor's debate becomes a Biden-Brownback showdown.
I'm not going to answer that question.
Now with new faces.
The President of the United States has an impact on what you do in your job as governor every single day.
The new GOP push, fire Democrats. Will there be a blue wave or GOP tsunami this November? Plus, we're taking a look at where the candidates stand on key issues, including marijuana.
They have fully supported legalizing medical marijuana for years.
The issue, the public policy issue, is how do you draw that line?
Could marijuana make a comeback next year? We're getting in the weeds this week. Welcome back. I'm Rebecca Chung, and this is a look at the week ahead inside Kansas politics. First up is the heated race for Kansas governor. Democrat Laura Kelly and Republican Derek Schmidt are the two leading candidates, but two names that aren't on the ballot are taking center stage. Take a listen.
Were we better off under Brownback than we are now? I want to ask you that question in sort of a different way. Knowing what we know now about what that tax experiment did to our state, including our schools, would you veto it if it came across your desk?
Do you want to focus on things that happened a long time ago with folks that are not on this stage? At least one of us wasn't. I want to focus on where this state is going. And I have a question for you, Governor. Do you think that America and Kansas are better off today than they were before Joe Biden was elected president?
Whew, a tense moment there. That's Kelly and Schmidt in their final debate of the election season. The economy is a popular issue for voters, and it's also stirring a debate on economic shortfalls. Once again, both candidates are bringing up President Joe Biden and former Kansas Governor Sam Brownback. Republicans are tying Biden to excess spending and inflation, but Kelly has been quick to remind voters of Brownback's failed tax experiment in her bid for re-election. This is a tactic she also used in 2018 when she defeated Republican Chris Kobach. But some Republicans are skeptical whether it will work this time. Despite backlash from Democrats, they're banding together on a bus tour. One of their guests, who also made a surprise stop at the debate, is former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie.
You can't help but run into it's President Biden, Vice President Harris, and their policies every day as a governor. But at least we're talking about somebody who's in office right now and affecting policy, and that's very different than talking about folks who have long gone.
Now, Christie joined the first stop on the tour in the state's capital city. Their message: fire Democrats this November. The final stop will be this week, Monday, October 10th. And another hot topic that came up during the final debate is medical marijuana. Kansas has yet to legalize marijuana in any form, while other states have made major strides. But this could be the year that lawmakers make a final move. Lawmakers will be meeting at the Capitol for their first special committee meeting this week. They'll be working on a bill that was stalled during session earlier this year. If the bill passes, it will be up to the next governor to sign it into law. And surprisingly, both Kelly and Schmidt agreed on some parts of the issue.
How do you make sure that we can accommodate the things that the vast majority of people agree on and not fling open the door for the harm that comes with essentially recreational use without limitation?
I have often said that we won't do this like Colorado did it, where there really was a shop on every corner. This will be a very well-regulated industry. We will not let it spread like wildfire.
Now, so far, the tide is shifting on the marijuana front. Major cities like Wichita have voted to decriminalize marijuana. And we also reached out to city council members in Topeka. One says they're not opposed to looking at similar options next year. And that's a look at the week ahead. We'll be doing a deep dive on the future of marijuana in Kansas and sitting down with key players in the industry. We'll be right back.
K-State, KU, all sports. K-Nation, Sunday nights at 10:30 on 27 KSNT. Sponsored by K-State Superstore and 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline.
No matter your game, Prairie Band Casino gives you more ways to play.
Prairie Band Casino and Resort.
Help make a child's Christmas by participating in Topeka Toys for Tots 4-Person Scramble on October 17th.
Enjoy lunch and then tee off at 12:45 at the Topeka Country Club.
Register your team of 4 at topekatots.com.
We all exist here on this planet to benefit others. That's how my wife and I feel when we give to St. Jude every month. Our giving to St. Jude is right up there with our mortgage. That's the priority that we put on giving to St. Jude.
Yo les puedo decir que es la satisfacción más grande que tengo. Es que yo estoy dando vida al ser un donante.
We just think of how we would feel if our kids had cancer. It's giving back for the blessings that we have been given in our life.
It's a cause that should resonate with anyone who believes that a child should be able to live a long, healthy life.
There's something about putting your arms around a child and bringing comfort. That's something that we can all agree on.
When everyone comes together for this good, nothing can stop it.
Welcome back to Inside Kansas Politics. Did you know this? Young women are more liberal when it comes to politics. Well, that is according to a study. According to the Gallup poll, 44% of women ages 19 to 29 identified themselves as liberal. That's compared to 25% of men, where the majority identify more as conservative. Political analysts say it's the biggest generational gap in about 24 years. And issues like the Me Too movement and abortion rights, that may have caused the shift. Analysts say the high gas prices from OPEC Plus cuts could pose a problem for Democrats. On Thursday, prices for a U.S. benchmark were $89 per barrel. That's up from about $76 in late September. Experts say the price hike is bad timing for Democrats, as the party is usually blamed for high fuel prices and could play a factor in how Americans vote in the midterm. And a previously postponed January 6th committee investigative hearing that will happen next week. The hearing, which was originally scheduled for September 28th, was pushed back due to Hurricane Ian. Well, it will now take place on Thursday. That's less than a month away from the midterm elections coming up on November 8th. Well, it hasn't been confirmed, but it's possible this hearing will be the last for the Select Committee investigating the January 6th attack on the United States Capitol. However, the committee still needs to produce a written report concerning its findings over the last 14 months. President Joe Biden on Thursday announced he will take executive action to pardon thousands of people convicted of marijuana possession under federal law. White House officials estimate over 6,500 people with prior federal convictions for simple possession of marijuana. They'll be pardoned. And get this, Biden said he would also encourage governors to take similar action with state offenses. Well, the marijuana conversation continues. Coming up, our roundtable highlights the debate of medical marijuana. This is a conversation you don't want to miss. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Built upon a solid foundation of cast iron and steel, the Kubota LO1 series is rated #1 in durability and owner experience. Powerful Kubota diesel engine, ease of operation, and your choice of a dependable Kubota gear or HST transmission. The durable Kubota LO1 series tractor. Talk to your local Kubota dealer today to schedule a demo.
Get equipped with a Kubota at Can Equip, Topeka, or Wamego.
There are a gazillion reasons to see the Gazillion Bubble Show. Oprah says it will blow your mind. And the New York Times calls it enchanting. The Gazillion Bubble Show is nonstop magic for the whole family.
Brought to you by SPS.
This week's Pets in Need Spotlight is Mr. Tibbs. Mr. Tibbs is 9 years old. He's a friendly guy looking for a loving home where he can retire. His adoption fee is sponsored, so he is $0 to adopt. You can meet Mr. Tibbs at Helping Hands Humane Society.
I was not a cancer mom until I was a cancer mom. You don't know until it's you. It can happen to anybody at any point.
We believe in the mission at St. Jude. We've experienced it. There's so many things that St. Jude does outside of treat cancer.
The research is shared. What they're doing matters to so many people. This entire facility is making changes for children. I may not have a son if it weren't for St. Jude, and we would have a totally different life right now. We need St. Jude. We all need St. Jude.
Welcome back to Inside Kansas Politics. 37 states now have legalized medical marijuana. Well, Kansas is not one of them, but we could be closer to legalizing it than ever before. And we will talk about that in today's roundtable. Joining me is Kelly Ripple and Dr. Eric Voth. Thank you for joining me today. Now, you guys have been very outspoken on the issue of medical marijuana. And I think one thing that Kansans really want to know is why has it taken the state so long to legalize medical marijuana? I mean, we have Oklahoma that has done it already, Missouri has done it already, and Kansas is kind of lagging a little further behind. Kelly, people want to know why. Why do you think that phenomenon is happening?
Well, it is a phenomenon, and you kind of have to go back in time and you have to research the history of prohibition and the fact that the temperance movement and alcohol prohibition, as we know in Kansas, was a big driver, and anti-immigration sentiment kind of was also part of that. Well, when alcohol was legalized, that sentiment was shifted over to people who were using other substances, and cannabis was one of those.
Dr. Voth, you are opposed to medical marijuana, and you once called medical marijuana a, quote, Trojan horse for marijuana in general. Do you think people are abusing the use of medical marijuana to satisfy recreational dependencies? Why do you call it a Trojan horse?
Well, if you go back to the very beginning of the medical marijuana movement, the proponents at that time said openly to their followers, we plan to use the medicalization as a way to get the camel's nose under the tent for legalization. And it's been a Trojan horse. If you look at the states that have legalized marijuana, all of them, 100% of them started with medical marijuana. And what I hate to see is this blurring of what is medicine and how does medicine come to market. You know, we have a very specific process in this country where proposed medicines have research, they go through the FDA, they go through proposal and research processes, and then they're approved. And these legislative phenomena bypass that completely. And what you end up with is what we see in our proposed legislation that doesn't have controls on dosage. It's got this almost wide open look at applications. There are 22 disorders that our legislation would propose, and there's no science behind that.
We talk a lot about the health effects of medical marijuana. Dr. Voth, you once said, and I find it very interesting, you likened the marijuana industry to the tobacco industry.
Absolutely.
You called it self-serving.
Right. And a lot of the tobacco industries are now starting to look at the whole cannabis world. In fact, on High Times, which is sort of the pro-marijuana website, just featured how tobacco companies are starting to come into that. The probably fortunate things about marijuana is that it doesn't suppress respiration. But what it certainly does do is we've been seeing that these higher concentrations above about 10% THC are clearly associated with psychotic episodes, with suicide, with depression, and with accidents. And there is now evidence that states that have not legalized have tended to have lower opiate overdose death rates than those that have legalized.
I just want to say, opioids act on the mu-opioid receptor in the brain. Cannabinoids interact in the endocannabinoid system, which every mammal has. And there are receptors all throughout the body, but they block pain from reaching the central nervous system, which is why it doesn't impact breath suppression. It literally is impossible to overdose on cannabis because you would have to either eat close to 15 tons, which at that point you would regurgitate, and if you were to smoke enough, you would either go to sleep or potentially suffocate from carbon dioxide. So let me just also point out about tobacco. I think there's maybe something we do agree on. The tobacco industry, and alcohol for that matter, is based on profit. Their models of legalization and the way that they are administered is driven by profit. Cannabis is not. It is driven by public health, and I'm just going to say that outright.
Why? Why do you say that? Why do you think that the marijuana industry is not based on money, based on profits?
If you look at adult use and what people are calling recreational, that's different. That's not what we're talking about in Kansas. We're talking about a medical cannabis program that is regulated. And more importantly, it protects the medical provider and patient relationship. But the reality is, if we are not competing at an economic level at the state level, we're only increasing the illicit market. And 80-some years of prohibition in Kansas, we know what the outcomes are.
The black market. Dr. Voth, what do you think about the black market? You don't think that patients will go elsewhere to get what they need?
They may. It's possible. It is possible.
So
I want to back up, though, to the legislation that's facing us, and that's where we've got to focus because it's imminent that something's going to happen there. For one, they don't have controls on THC levels. They do not have controls. They need those controls. They need a prescription process that is more closely like regular medical prescriptions. Right now, a cannabis recommendation can just say cannabis. If I wrote an opiate prescription, let's say for Lortabs or whatever, I would say, here's the indication. You get X number of pills of a specific dose and yes or no on refills. And then you would closely monitor that. And you'd warn the patients, which we have no requirement for in this legislation, of potential side effects. And we don't have that. And we also have this wide open application for the different diagnoses. And that totally goes against the science. So I think if they're going to charge ahead with medical marijuana here, they need to seriously tighten that legislation down.
Now, there will be committee meetings on the issue of medical marijuana. They will be happening this month on the 12th and on the 19th. Well, that was a look inside Kansas politics. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next Sunday.